MtlGreen's Beehive Feedback Show. My name is Christy, and I'm a member of MtlGreen. MtlGreen is a group. MtlGreen is a group that promotes eco initiatives and bringing the community together to make Montreal a more sustainable city. The Beehive Feedback Show is an opportunity for these eco startups to present their challenges, and for you, the viewers, to give comments, ideas, and feedback. So for them to make a more impactful commitment against climate change. Tonight we have two presenters. We have Carlos, who will be speaking about solar energy, and Alexei, who will be speaking about microbreweries. So after Alexei and Carlos present, you, the viewers, will have an opportunity to give your feedback through a very, very unique format. But you know what? I'll hold that on for now until then. So now, may I present Carlos? Carlos, thank you for joining us this evening.
Hello, Christy. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
So, my name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm the founder of Solar G Systems, and we're a startup specialized in off-grid solar energy systems. Okay, so that means for remote locations or where there is no electrical grid. Okay, so my project started after traveling a lot. I realized that there is a lack of education, health, and standard of living worldwide. Okay, so a little part of the problem is lack of electricity. So I said, well, what can I do as an engineer? So I say, okay, I'm gonna start this startup, and with the goal to bring power where needed. Okay, so today we have two types of markets. Okay, first is the international market. So basically, it's developing countries. So where I like to say we have IKEA solar kits for schools, clinics, canteens. So the idea is that you get solar panels, batteries, inverters, cables, everything that goes with it, put it in a box, ship it, and you get the assembly instructions, and you're able to do it by yourself. Okay, so this is basically villages off the grid or in cities where the electrical grid is not very stable. Another market, a local market in Quebec, would be the adventurers and the outdoor lovers. Okay, so cabins, hunting huts, RVs, vans. So people who want to go off grid and enjoy nature. Okay, so in these cases, we're sometimes replacing what they used to power with with propane or a diesel generator. Okay, in the future, we're preparing a new kit, a photovoltaic water pumping system. This is in a partnership with École supérieure de technologie, ETS, here in Montreal. And here the idea, we're targeting, for example, remote villages in Africa where they don't have access to water, and basically the people from the village or the women, they spend half of the day just walking up and down, back and forth, getting water in a bin, or they have manual wells. Okay, so now the idea is to have electrical pumps that are powered by solar. So today, what I would like to get your feedback on is what other kinds of applications do you think it would be interesting for us to approach, especially in the local market? And the second thing is how to get visibility, so more people could profit from these kinds of solutions. Um, so, well, this is pretty much solar systems in a nutshell.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos. A very, very inspirational initiative you have there, especially with solar energy, and has really gained a lot of popularity. So now we're going to go into our commentary for you, the audience. So you're going, okay, well, what's this unique feature that you have? Well, we have three components. The first one is a hashtag. Here, with the hashtag, you will actually put down what you really liked about the presentation. The second one is the heart. So with the heart, it's something that really, really resonates with you. It's kind of like the honey that's produced by the bees. The third one is a delta. So which is actually the most critical because it kind of gives a little bit of the sting, not too much of a sting, but actually it will help Carlos refine his project. So first of all, I'm going to go through the hashtag, and right before that, I'm going to introduce the rest of our team. We have Monica, Jason. We also have Omer, who is our tech guy tonight. He's doing a brilliant job. We also have Theo and Sane. So now, as we present our hashtags, feel free to comment in the Facebook chat, and we'll be glad to take anything. And we will have 2 minutes to do that. So now, Monica, what's your hashtag?
Yeah, so my hashtag for Carlos, what I understood, is a solution powered by a resource that's available anytime with the sun. So really accessible and making it easy to bridge towards a more eco-friendly power.
Okay. And Jason?
I'd say it's resonating with sustainable energy to remote locations. I think that's where the need is bigger.
And Theo, what's your input, Theo?
I understand is a solution for off-grid power generation.
Okay. And Sane?
I wrote down as a hashtag, do-it-yourself solar panels. Almost, if you are talking about the kits that are being sent like off-grid, it almost reminds me of like a do-it-yourself kit in solar energy.
Okay, great. So now let's get to the heart, which is the honey. So now I'll start with Theo.
Well, I like, Carlos, that you present your initiative and you say what you're doing right now, and you're looking for more ways to grow, to expand these solutions and get inspiration from the crowd. So thanks for joining us for this today.
Jason?
I like the idea that it's a kit. So you're taking your own engineering knowledge and you're putting it all together for people so they understand. Not everybody understands what goes with what and how things work together. So putting that kit together, I think, will be really helpful in those areas.
And for those who are participating on Facebook, don't be shy to put in your comments. So, and Monica?
I think the advantage is that you sell accessibility, which is something most people consider as a roadblock. Is this possible? Is it not? And you give that confidence. I think that's one of the top strengths of the product.
And Alexi will be our second presenter from Boomerang.
I would say accessibility. I think these kind of installation are very complicated a lot of times, and I think a big problem is the cost related to their application. So accessibility because they're able to make it themselves and have it shipped.
And Sane?
Yes, I agree with what is being voiced earlier already, but I also like it that you're combining two issues, like the energy poverty as well as the need for like green energy, like sustainability. So I really like how you're combining, that social and that environmental issue in this project. So that's my heart.
Great. And now let's get to the delta, which is this thing, which shouldn't hurt too much. So I'll start with Monica. Okay. Okay.
Oh, I think Monica was busy typing back and forth from Facebook.
Okay. So we'll start with you, Jason.
So, I would say that because power is pretty universal, right? So you mentioned water pumps, could be for tiny homes or lighting, etc. So I like that you could do that. To make it more sustainable, you might consider rather than shipping internationally to where you want to make those kits, is try to build those kits more locally. It's like, where are the solar panels coming from? Is it a reliable source to get it? Is it close to where it is? And you might be able to take your knowledge, which is probably the most valuable thing, transfer it to somebody else in those countries and have them build it there, or just have the idea of the component to build there and kind of keep it more locally sourced. But outside that, I think that's a great idea, what you're doing.
Thanks.
And Sane?
Yes, great idea. I agree. For me, the delta that I wrote down was maybe more on the presentation itself. I would like to see a little bit more like numbers, or a bit more scientific, base, saying like, okay, what is the, maybe in terms of like the energy demand, or in terms of how much, I don't know, money you're saving, or greenhouse gas emissions, just a bit more of those numbers. I think that will resonate well with people. So that maybe also responds to your question, how to get more visibility, because I know you were asking for that. And with other applications, I will think about that. Get back to me later on that. But we'll get to your two questions as well. Anyway, I'll leave the floor.
And Carlos, one of our viewers has a question about hidden costs and
Sure.
the process.
Other than buying a kit and then paying the shipping fee, that's it. There's no more hidden cost. Actually, one of the advantages is that these are basically maintenance-free systems. So if you compare them with a diesel generator, you have to buy the diesel, you have to do maintenance, you have to change parts and so on. Here, it's basically you pay it and that's it. There is a lifespan of it. You have to take care of the batteries, for example. But other than that, it's just an initial fee. That's it.
Okay. And Monica.
Yeah, from my end, I think it would be interesting to use maybe an example of a recent, let's say, deployment, and how much savings did it bring? How did these people benefit versus a very polluting solution? I think people could really relate to it and maybe understand the comparison between solar versus what if I use this or that other method that could be available in the area.
Okay. And Theo?
Yeah, so a few points. So I would focus on area where, obviously, I mean, in Canada, we have a lot of communities that are off-grid, and there's already initiatives. So maybe you could partner with some organization that are invested in that area with your specific design, your kit. Another component is the battery lifespan, the life cycle. I would like expand on this. Also, you say, the lifespan of the panel and all of the aspect of the differentiation of your kit on that regard. And also, when you say IKEA, okay, maybe we get it. Probably a bit better to reframe it in your own way, so you don't associate it necessarily to that specific company.
Okay.
And then what's the other aspect? Yeah, I saw for places where the grid exists, we already see that people are going to save a lot of money if they make the investment up front, and they're going to save money. Actually, they're going to start printing money if they are able to output to the grid themselves with their generation. So I mean, it's going in the right direction. You've got a lot of options, but I especially look into what is happening. There's also off-grid movement in Canada. If you look on YouTube, you'll see people talking about their initiative of building their house in ways that is off-grid. So maybe there's an interesting market there for you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. And Carlos, is there anything that you need to clarify?
Well, first of all, thanks for all your comments. Very useful. One of the comments was about bringing the technology to abroad, right? So that is one of the problems. Let's say the technology exists in developed countries, so North America, Europe, Asia. Okay, but then the actual need, it's close to the equator in developing countries where there is actually more sun exposure. Okay, so we want to bridge the gap between where the technology is and where the technology is needed. and as much as we can, yes, we will transfer the know-how. Okay, but the manufacturing, unfortunately, it's not there today. So what else? Yeah, I see what you mean by not saying IKEA kit, but just to make it easier to understand. And there's a couple of questions about the life cycle of the systems. Today that's a question mark regarding the footprint of all these components. That's something interesting to think about, especially the carbon footprint and so on. Okay, as an example, I could say that I have some clients that ask me, okay, now I'm running. When I go out with my trailer, I bring a propane bottle or a diesel generator. I don't want to bring it anymore. Okay, it's too noisy. There's too much fumes. So I just want to go solar. So we replaced that by a couple of solar panels. It will be interesting to measure the quantity, but it's already there.
Carlos, thank you very much, and all the best with your endeavors, and continue the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And now we're going to proceed to Alexi from Boomerang Foods, and he is going to discuss about microbreweries. So, Alexi, again, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
So thanks everyone for being here to listen, and thank you for having me to present. So I'm Alexi, and me and my 3 colleagues co-founded Boomerang. It's a co-op, which goal is to upcycle spent beer that is being produced. There's also a pint of spent grains. So for those of you who don't really know what spent grains are, the first step of making beer is called the mashing. So we take the cereal, malted barley usually, and boil it in water for but the cereal that have been boiled, they need to be discarded. So in the cities, that's a big problem for the brewers. First, because it's costly, they have to pay for someone to come pick it up. And also it's quite smelly. After 12 hours it starts to re-ferment, and it smells pretty sour. And it takes up a lot of room, which we all know, room is expensive in Montreal. So about how much we're looking at, like a good sized microbrewery makes about 4 tons a week. And we're talking about 6,000 tons a year for the island of Montreal. And that's not even considering big breweries like Labatt and Molson. So the most common solutions for them is private compost or garbage disposal services, which are expensive and not always flexible time-wise. And there's also actually one farmer that collects those spent grain and feeds his goats, his livestock. And those solutions are all right, but they're not ideal, first because they're costly, and because they don't upcycle spent grain as much as they could, because they have a lot of potential. It also necessitates a lot of trips in and out of the city, sometimes 2 hours far, all that with trucks, which contributes to pollution in the general Montreal area. So we saw that as an opportunity and saw that the best output for that resource was flour. So there's different reasons for that. The first reason is because it's shelf stable. So that flour can be kept for up to a few months and stays good, at the opposite of spent grain that go sour quite fast. It's also an ingredient that's pretty versatile and easy to integrate into different recipes, such as bread, danishes, pet food, pasta, pretty much everywhere where you would use flour or powders. It's also very rich in protein, fiber, and mineral, much more than white flour. It has between 20 and 20% protein by weight, which is a lot. It's comparable to like chickpea flour. And it also has much less calories because all the sugar and all the carbs are in the water and in the beer. So it's really not just an ingredient that you can kind of use. It's actually very interesting, and that's why we chose that form. So we want to sell that ingredients to actors in the food industry, so not directly to clients by ourselves. And that's because we want to use organization that already have an infrastructure and that are able to move a lot, because we hope to really solve the brewers problem in a better way eventually. So we're at an early stage right now. We produced about 30 kilograms by ourselves that we gave as samples to different of our client prospects, such as pet food, industrial bakers, and granola makers. And we're surprised by the results, because it seems that the produce is even easier to integrate as than we thought. It adds a little bit of coloring, and it enhances the nutritional properties. And I guess a challenge that we're facing a little bit right now is how to market a product that doesn't exist yet. When we approach people and tell them that it's an upcycled product, that it fights food waste, they don't have anything to compare it with. There's no ingredient. And clients, people who are going to buy the bread, the pasta, etc. So that's what we wanted feedback on. So in conclusion, spent grain is being produced in a tremendous amount and has a lot of potential. So that's what we stand for: more food, better food, and less waste. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Excellent presentation. And now, again, I will reiterate about our feedback system. So we have three components. And for those who may be joining us right now, thank you very much for joining and welcome to the Beehive Feedback Show. First, I want to introduce the hashtag. So the hashtag is what part of Alexi's presentation that you really enjoyed. The second, and then we'll go over that for about 2 minutes. The second part is the heart, the honey. What really struck you most about the presentation? Again, we'll go that for another round of 2 minutes. And then third is the delta, which again is the most critical point. What is the change? What's that little tiny annoying, what's that little sting that sometimes that little pinch, but can really help Alexi's project to grow and continue to make an impact in the Montreal community. So now we're going to start with the hashtag, and for those who are viewing on Facebook, please again feel free to join in. Do not be shy. With your help and input, we can help Alexi. So tonight, let me start with Sane. Sane, what is your hashtag?
My hashtag was spent grains, because I've never heard of them, but really interesting to learn about them.
And Carlos? Okay. We'll wait for you, Carlos. And Theo, what's your hashtag?
My hashtag is upcycling product from brewery.
Okay. Jason?
Like a superfood flour.
And Monica?
I feel less guilty drinking beer knowing that this stuff will be used for greater good.
And we'll go back to Carlos if he has any his input. Now we'll transition on to the heart, the major honey part. So again, let me start with you, Monica.
So the heart is really like a new discovery and unknown nutritional facts that could be beneficial. So instead of taking raw new materials, you're upcycling, finding a second life to something that's already been used. Really great job on that.
Jason.
Well, Monica stole my answer. That's not good. No, but I do like the idea of creating even more added value. So to the point of food upcycling, though, because you mentioned it's also used as food for the goats, but creating even more value to it, I think is a great initiative as well.
Okay, we're getting another hashtag.
Jason, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself and repeat your comment?
We're also getting other hashtags. Nutritional properties, less carbs.
Oh, sorry. I guess I was on mute. I'm sorry. That's what you were saying. Yeah, what I was saying about the the upcycling is that you're actually giving them a higher added value other than feed, which is probably a good way to use it as well. But actually putting it into a flour and actually a nutritious ingredient for flour and creating even more benefit helps with food sovereignty and everything that we're trying to accomplish with climate change. So good job. Sorry about the mute.
That's fine, Jason. Theo.
Yeah, I like the idea of finding new opportunities to expand these kind of upcycling ways of reintroducing nutrients or any kind of like output of any process. I think you have a good product potential there. Working your market fit seems to be the challenge, and so getting into the habit of doing this, talking about these types of cycles of upcycling is just the way to go, I think. So congratulations for you on this.
Insane?
Yes, I really like the problem-solving approach. Like you saw this opportunity, you like seized it, but not only that, you really created like a solid plan around it, sounds like. And on plus, microbreweries are like popping up all over the place. So I definitely think that's like you're in a good market. Also, congrats on the great presentation, very clear. So just want to commend you on that.
And Carlos. Carlos, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. So
Okay.
I like the originality of the product. So that's good, and that's a very good differentiation product thing from other microbreweries. Very good.
I apologize, Carlos, for interrupting. So now we're going to go on to the Delta, that little annoying state. So let me start with Jason. I want to put you on the spot, but
Sorry with me? Okay. I guess because you said you're in the early stages, so you're developing. You mentioned you've made 30 kilos, so kind of you're just as a testing. I'm not sure what process you did in order to grind that flour. There are other companies. I don't know what they're on. There are other companies that are doing this right now. I know in the United States. I'm not sure about Canada, and they have developed certain processes for making the flour or less. Anyway, keeping the nutrients and being a little less energy intensive. You might consider working with Agritech. I think it's in Montreal North. I'm not as familiar with it, but you might want to research them. They might be able to help give you funding in order to develop a process to scale this up and really make it work really well and get out of this development kind of stage you have going. So I think you might want to look into them for some help and maybe some funding.
yeah.
Yeah, similar in that line. I think your market fit would be all the small breweries that are going in that direction of being more sustainable, that they understand the circular economy type of application, and at the same time, the end consumers who are interested in seeing more of those initiatives in their products. So small markets, local markets. And then at the same time, potentially, maybe the application is too narrow, so you need to maybe expand or work in collaboration with other partners. I know there's a few businesses, maybe you can learn from them, that use other types of product, not the exact product that you're using, but just sort of partner with them to see where their business entrepreneurial journey in order to become more visible in the market and potentially collaborate with such actors.
And same.
Yes, so as you mentioned, you're still in the early stages. I agree with everybody else speaking tonight that I guess looking for partners is like critical at this point. I'm wondering if you also consider the use of like selling it directly as flour for, to just for consumption of citizens. But I'm not sure if that's like something you considered or even a possibility. But otherwise, it would be cool to close the loop even with the microbreweries themselves. You never know, maybe they have like products that use flour and you can just loop it back into like the microbrewery itself. just spreading it out there. But looking for partners would be my biggest recommendation, I guess. But I'm sure you know.
And Carlos.
Yes, the a little downside I would say, like there's a lot of microbreweries out there, especially in Quebec, so that might be hard to get in the market. And somebody mentioned about selling the flour. So yes, but then they have to maybe educate people like what to do with it, what to use it for, and so on.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you. And Alexi, we have actually some questions from Facebook. Do you already have some products that are already incorporated in the flour?
Well, like I said, we won't be making products, but we kind of had to make some in order to convince people that it's possible. So actually, we had personally, I made cookies with it, and they were good. But my neighbor downstairs is artisanal baker, and she baked a baguette, like French bread, and cookies with only our flour, not with a blend, really with only our flour. And that's what we tried to share with people to show that it's possible, I guess.
And another question that was posted was: would you need to make sure the breweries are complying with a different sanitary protocol?
Is that like the question? Like, oh, well, actually, it doesn't need to be proved or anything because what is used to make beer, like the cereal, are food grade, and when they exit the big containers made to brew beer, they are also food grade. So as long as they're transported in food grade containers, there's nothing to prove at this regard.
Okay. And what about concerns of and what about concerns of gluten? And how would you educate the people? And how would you educate?
Oh, well, as you know, beer has a lot of gluten and is not easy on people who have an intolerance to that. So sadly, we're not like our products have gluten and they will be for the first stages. But there's a big brewery in Montreal that makes, Glutenberg makes beer, gluten-free beer, and we consider working with them in time, to make gluten-free spent grain flours. However, we did, on different food actors in the industry, we did like a survey on what was the most important to them, and it seems that gluten-free was very low on the list, so it's not something we're actively pursuing right now.
And what about your market? Is it specifically for densely urban areas or outside big cities as well?
It's mostly an urban problem because if a city is in a village surrounded by fields, they can just pretty much use it for feed right next to them or dump it in a field and it'll decompose very fast. It's really an urban problem. On the small island of Montreal, there's about 50 microbreweries. There's Labatt, there's Molson, and there's bigger microbreweries too. And there's no choice but to transport it far. So Toronto has the same problem. Ottawa probably does too. Vancouver and so on.
And what about second fermentation? And how fast will you need it to get the spent grains in order to avoid it?
So there've been a lot of tests done by universitaries and by people who tried doing the same thing. The shortest that we heard is 5 hours after the mash is taken out. 12 hours is the longest. So between 5 and 12 hours, it's pretty fast. It's pretty fast. So we would have to take it from the brewery, and if we don't dehydrate it on site, bring it directly to the thing. That's why the initiative is local too. We couldn't take spent grain from Trois-Rivières or Quebec or Ottawa, and it's not the point. It's really to offer a local solution to upcycle it as much as possible. But the logistics behind it have to be tight too.
Okay. And since we have several more common, I'm sorry. Alexi?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Since we have several You can actually go back on our page to maybe respond to these comments. And again, thank you very much for a very informative talk. As you can see, everyone, incredible initiatives that are coming from Montreal to really make an impact. Not only in Montreal and within Quebec, but throughout the world. And gentlemen, thank you again so much, and all the best. And thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome.com, and have a wonderful night.